Hello everyone, TW here, and welcome to my stream of conscious style review of Star Fox 64, released back in 1997 for the Nintendo 64. And just for the record, I am taking a look at the original Nintendo 64 release because, to be honest, I don't feel like putting myself through the hell that is the Nintendo Switch version due to the preciseness of the controls needed to play this game. By the way, the first thing you'll notice is that there's actually full voice acting in this game, which is kind of crazy for the Nintendo 64, which did not really feature that all that often. Now before we begin the main campaign, let's take a look at the training mode, which I recommend everyone doing, especially if this is your first time playing the game. It's here you'll learn all about the different lasers, bombs, and technical maneuvers you'll need in order to succeed. By the way, I can never ever get all the rings in this training mode. Ugh. Guess I'll never make it as a blue hedgehog. It's also in this mode you'll learn all about the fact that this game has two different modes. The usual linear style where you just go through a shoot 'em up level like you do, and the more free roaming all range mode. Now that we've all trained our skills up to the necessary levels, let's begin that main campaign. And we won't be completing this campaign alone. We'll be joined by some interesting teammates, like Slippy Toad, Peppy Hare, and Falco, and they all have special abilities, such as Slippy's ability to show the boss's health, Peppy, who gives us hints on how to defeat the bosses as well as complete objectives, and Falco, who just sometimes, when he's feeling like it, shows us some hidden paths. And here on this first level where we'll be given two hidden objectives. First we have to protect Falco, and then we'll have to fly through some arches. Doing this will lead us to our first boss. So yeah, this game can have some pretty vague objectives. It was kind of the style at the time, one could say. And I almost completed this Sector X hidden path, but I just couldn't hit the freaking button enough times before I just ended up colliding with it. Just god damn it, I was so close. I was, however, at least able to defeat the boss of Sector X rather quickly, and I'm going to tell you right now, you're going to want to do that, because if you don't, then I believe this is the part where Slippy Toad will just get KO'd all the way down to the next level, and it's just an absolute bitch to have to rescue him. However, I feel like the game was still punishing me because I still had to use the Landmaster, and oh boy, I'm not too good at using this thing. Not good at all. One thing I was good at was protecting my crew and making sure they made it to the next level. That was until I ran into Starwolf. Then they took out two of my guys. Just thanks for that, you jerks. And speaking of survival, I barely survived the last level. Venom was just whooping my ass non-stop, and once I made it to Andros, the story wasn't too different there. And while I was able to finish the game, I was, unfortunately, unable to get the true ending because I failed the hidden objective of Sector X, because had I been able to complete that, I would have been sent to a separate level and been able to get the true ending there by completing the following levels afterwards. But, whatever, at least I was able to finish the game, and one of the things I do like about Star Fox 64 is that there are so many different paths that you can take to get the different endings, and that adds to the mythical replay value that people like to talk about so much. If nothing else, I can say that back in the day, it was a great conversation starter with friends on talking about the different levels you went to. Like, oh, did you go to the one level with all the mech suits? Because, yeah, Gundam was kind of popular at the time. I mean, I guess it kind of is now, but it does not feel as popular now as it was back then, when it was one of the only animes shown on television. And one of the things I have to bring up is the soundtrack, because for a game that's going for a cinematic feel, on the N64, I think it does a pretty damn good job. Let's take a look at some tracks, shall we?
See my ship? Does it look okay to you?
And on top of that, visually, it holds up rather decently. The water doesn't look terrible. The character models look pretty good. I know they look like puppets, but that was actually the point. They were supposed to look like puppets because it's a throwback to old style puppet television. And on top of that, there's nothing in this game that looks overly polygonal, so it has that over several games of its era. And circling back to the voice acting, it's actually not all that bad. Like, it still holds up pretty well, which is insane because think about how much bad voice acting was going around this time. Hell, think about the fact that voice acting up until the late 2000s even was still pretty mid. Like, how? Where did they find these voice actors? Like, I'm not saying this game is Metal Gear or Mass Effect, but for a game of its time, it's pretty fucking great. And that, everybody, was Star Fox 64. Still the best game in its whole series because it's the only one that I ever feel like playing. I could play the newer entries, but they just feel like they constantly try to reinvent the wheel when all we want is a good old-fashioned shoot 'em up in space. That's it. That's all we want. Maybe I'm alone here, but that's all I want from a Star Fox game. Just give us another one where we just go from level to level, shoot stuff up, maybe accomplish some vague objective along the way. That's all we need. Come on. And that, everyone, was the video. I hope you all had a fun time watching. And as for what's next, well, I think it's time to pay tribute to one of the most legendary voices in all of video gaming. And I hope you all join me for that. But until then, I hope you have a perfect rest of your day.
Somebody say I'm good girl with a drink and up for wise. Every man seems so happy to see me good. Do I look nicely enough? I got dressed up before you. Look at me, this is my love.
Hey Cloud, what do you think about Star Fox 64's multiplayer? Ah, not a fan either.